Hello, and welcome to Afternoon Tea with Karen, where we're going to have a quick look how trans ideology, queer theory, and socialism all fit in together and why they all show up together to protest together. The objectives of trans ideology is laid out in the Denton documents, being the sixth largest law firm in wealth. Their publication, Only Adults, Good Practice in Legal Gender Recognition for Youth, sets out their strategy for advancing gender ideology. So this was put out in 2019. Right, the right to the development of the child. So if the children has cis parents that do not want to transition it, this is legally then their objectives to take the child from the parents and then put the child in a rainbow family. That's what rainbow families are. I was a bit naive and thought it was same-sex parents, but rainbow families are the family you create when you have to leave your cis family for the rainbow. So, eliminate the minimum age is also one of their objectives, a self-ID, and also identify groups of children, such as schools.
Welcome back to the comment section. I'm Brett Cooper. Now, I am sure that you have seen the tweets that we are discussing today. They've been going around for the last week or so. But to cut to the chase, the UN has apparently decided to add minor sex to its human rights platform.
You're kidding.
And there's no other intro needed, and that is all 100% real. Before we get into that, though, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, ring that notification bell so that you never miss a comment section or an off-the-clock episode. Alrighty, so I first saw this story last week from the Twitter account Amuse. Here's the tweet. He said, the United Nations issued this report calling on member nations to decriminalize sex between adults and minors. Should adults be allowed to convince kids to perform sexual acts with them? The UN says yes. And then he linked this announcement from the UN. New legal principles launched on International Women's Day to advance decriminalization efforts. So this happened last month. This is not new news, but it's just now, getting into the Twitter cycle. The UN in this announcement wrote, the International Committee of Jurists, along with UNAIDS and the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, officially launched a new set of expert jurist legal principles to guide the application of international human rights law to criminal law. The quote, 8 March principles, which is supposed to be, International Women's Day, March 8th, you're getting the connection, as they are called, lay out a human rights-based approach to laws criminalizing conduct in relation to sex, drug use, HIV, sexual and reproductive health, homelessness, and poverty. Going on, they say the principles developed over 5 years, which is just shocking that they spent 5 years creating the most disgusting things imaginable, are based on feedback and reviews from a range of experts and stakeholders. They were finalized in 2022. Initially, the principles focused on the impact of criminal laws prescribing sex and reproductive health and rights, consensual sexual activity, gender identity, gender expression, HIV, non-disclosure, exposure, transmission, drug use and possession of drugs for personal use, and later, based on the inputs of civil society and other stakeholders, criminalization linked to homelessness and poverty were also included. In this announcement, they also go into the laws against transgender people and all of that stuff. It's so political.
So the objectives of queer theory is that the rainbow will keep expanding with the plus, keep adding more things they can find. I'm still waiting to see the asexual people get their sexy dances on at Pride. And eventually the rainbow will become the majority, and the cis hetero people, which also includes gay people who are binary, they will become the minority. Oh, and lesbians, they'll just be, erased totally. Queer theory is the perspective that questions the perception that cisgender and heterosexual identities are in any sense standard. By exposing children to drag queens, this is an example, what is seen as deviance by some will be normalised by the next generation. That's why they have it, okay? It's not for the drag queens to get their jollies, although I'm sure some of them probably are, reading to kids. It's about the kids becoming normalised to deviance. It's part of queer ideology. So the non-binary stuff, we're all fluid and we're all going to be rooting each other stuff, that's queer theory. The Socialist Workers' Party. Okay, they were, as we seen in a previous one, they showed up. They marched with trans people and with the queer people because they've got similar goals. They all both want to bring down society, this terrible society that we live in. The socialists want everyone to be equitable, like sort of financially. The trans and queer people want everyone to be equally deviant. Anyway, in Australia, they're called the Socialist Alliance.
Thanks for announcing this coming up. So yeah, Laura, do you want to make a start?
Yeah, thanks very much, Connie. Thanks for the invitation. I'd have liked to have been there in person, but I'm dividing my time between London and Vienna this afternoon. And before I forget, by the way, we're actually in the process, party's in the process of writing a new pamphlet on trans. Some of us are involved in that, and hopefully that will be available to be launched at Marxism at the end of June. So meetings like this, I think, are really useful to sort of get some feedback or some discussion around the key issues for trans people and what's behind the war on trans. So I'll start with really briefly summarising what some of the real-term consequences are of the war on trans, because hate speech, misinformation and lies lead directly to discrimination, harassment, bullying and of course violence.
Hi there, everybody. Okay, shall we start the meeting, please? I know there may be more people coming in. If we can make it easy for latecomers to find a seat, which will be towards near the ends of the rows, that'd be really lovely of you. Thank you very much. And welcome, everybody, to this meeting. Welcome to Marxism. If this is your first day here, it's been absolutely amazing so far. I hope you're all enjoying it. I hope we have a really brilliant discussion today. Okay, so to introduce myself, I'm Celia Hutchison. I'm a member of the Socialist Workers' Party in Manchester, this meeting is Marxism versus Queer Theory. And our speaker today is Michael Dance, and Michael is a member of the Socialist Workers' Party. He is also an activist in the National Education Union, the trade union, teachers' trade union, and in that he is also on the LGBT organising forum of his trade union. So Michael is going to speak for 30 minutes. Now, before we do all that, I just want to explain a little bit about the format of this meeting, what's happening with this meeting. This meeting is being live streamed and filmed. So if you wish to speak, we would ask you, if you can, and if you are happy to come to the front. If that's not okay, that's absolutely fine. We have people with mics like this, and they can bring the mic to you. I will explain more about how the discussion is going to run when we come to that. So let's leave that for now. Okay, so I would like to, therefore, welcome everybody to the meeting, whether you're watching on Zoom or whether you're here in the room. And I would like to, with no further waste of time, introduce Michael. Michael's going to speak for 30 minutes, after which we've got lots of time for discussion. Then Michael will come back at the end. Michael, over to you.
Okay, the first thing I really want to talk about today is the title itself, because it looks like it's a battle between two very, very opposing sides. And while we do have arguments and discussions within the movement, it's very, very important that we locate that in terms of what is happening in the world today, because the far-right forces across the world are attacking LGBT plus people, gender ideology, gender studies, all the courses where people talk and discuss ideas, and queer theory itself. So I think it's very important that we start by saying that we side with those people who are under attack, and we should stand in unity with anyone who comes under attack because of their queerness, and that we are against people like Orban in Hungary, the Polish government, Trump and his cronies and allies in the US, and so on. And that is really important. And, locating that in Britain today, I think it's very important to, sorry, that's not moving. There you go. It's very important to understand what is happening in terms of the attacks in Britain, because these aren't my family photos, but this was last week, which saw the fifth standoff between the forces of the far right and those counter-protesting to defend drag queen story time at the Honor Oak pub in Lewisham, South London. And I think in some ways it's the custom of drag queens telling stories to young people is in some ways a typical strategy that comes out of queer theory and the idea of queering. The idea of queering something like the reading for pleasure. It's the idea of disrupting norms, creating situations that question heteronormativity. And like so much of queer activism, it emerged in the US, initiated by Michelle T in San Francisco in 2015. And drag queen storytime has become the target for right-wing groups because they see it as a fertile area to attack and create division and gain popularity for themselves in terms of linking LGBT plus issues with grooming and paedophilia and a way to attack gender ideology across the globe. And you can see the sort of people who were faced up to us last week down in Lewisham. A collection of hard right people, ex-Nazis or Nazis and people who used to be in Combat 18 and Bloods and Roses, awful people who are trying to turn the anger in society against LGBT plus people and divide us. So in that sense, it's fundamental that socialists stand with the oppressed against the right, defending events like Drag Queen Story Hour. However, this meeting is part of a course called Liberation. And Marxism and queer theory have very different ideas and very different strategies and goals about how liberation can be won. And in the case of queer theory, it's actually questionable whether some queer theorists actually think that revolution can be achieved at all. So before I start to discuss some of the ideas in queer theory, I do want to talk about the word queer because, when I was growing
And they're the bits I used today. And this is my very first OBS recording. Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.